another episode of This and That. I'm your co-host, Marcel Copeland, and this is
Angie. Hello.
so. Yep, we're back again for another week. Just got my notification here, so we live, and you know, yeah, we're glad to be back. Um, it's been a good week so far for me. How about you, Angie?
It's been really good, really good. Actually, a funny story.
Mm-hmm.
So I was walking Sadie one day. It wasn't this week. I think it was last week. And so usually I'm starting to run into like these not stray dogs, but dogs that get out their yard, and they're always like pit bulls and something like that, right? And so this particular day, I'm talking on the phone at the same time I'm talking to my dog, walking my dog. It's like 7 o'clock. And so I go around the corner. I wasn't really paying attention, but I go around the corner and I noticed this car kind of like slowed down on the side street. And I'm looking like, what is this car doing? Right? So then I look up straight ahead and it's a pit bull on the corner, towards the way I'm headed. So I stand there, I pause. He walking around literally in my sight, and I have Sadie. Usually she barks, and that gets the dog's attention, right?
Right.
So this time she did not bark for whatever reason. There's nothing but God. Did not bark, and it's the family was in this car, and they actually stopped, and for me, because they saw the dog before I did. They saw me turn the corner, so they stopped. They didn't go any further, and then they were watching the dog, watching me, and then we didn't even communicate. It was just I knew they were there for me, and they made sure the dog had started walking before they left. And then the lady was like, "You know what? Here's some mace." She was like, "Because if I was out with my dog Bella, I don't know what I would do." So she gave me mace, and then when they found out I was safe, they went ahead on their way, and then I went ahead and walked my way. Can you believe that?
Wow. Favor of God. That's all God right there.
Yeah.
So your dog didn't make any noise to alert the animal. Then someone actually made provision. And then God made provision. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Wow.
He did. Yeah, because I would have been a running sister. I don't know what I would have been done, but I don't know. Crazy. I'm so glad I didn't have to find out.
Wow, that's incredible. That's a great testimony. So God had his favor upon you. Then sent some, I like to think in my imagination, some angels, to send you there yeah, we got some weapons for you. Some mace. That's incredible.
That family, yup. They didn't know me from Adam.
Wow.
And I would have never known that dog was down there if I hadn't looked at them and saw them driving really slow, barely driving at all. And they kind of sat, and I'm looking are they trying to get me? What's going on? Yeah.
Welcome everybody watching. Feel free to be interactive with us and to ask questions. Linked us in over here to YouTube and check over here in the comment section, see if we got anybody. It's quiet right now. But while you come in, I think I could take this off. It's a little chilly inside church, I mentioned before, but it's not as bad today. I think that's because we had a nice 70. Was it 73 today?
Yeah,
73
really
degree weather today, so I think we're good. And yeah, so it's not. I can feel the difference. It's not as bad as it was last week. It was really chilly in here, and so yeah. So I'll think I'll take that off. But we had an interesting week, Angie. We're only 2 weeks away from the election, and so
I'm ready for it to be over.
Yeah, I'm so tired of it. And, I know every election season, they say this is the most important election of your life. If you don't vote for the right, you're going to die. It's all this fear mongering they do. I'm just so sick of it. And so I'm ready for it to be over. But now it's more annoying because the candidates now are actually tech savvy. At least they have people on their team that are tech savvy.
Oh, boy, are they tech savvy.
And so they are on all your YouTube. I watch our YouTube. And so as opposed to regular TV, every single video is an ad. And it's an unskippable ad. You can't even skip over it. It's
I know.
I'm like, come on now.
Skip over that.
And then they put them all through your program, and it's why? I don't want to hear no more. I'm tired of both candidates screaming at me. Both of them are annoying. You got the Trump side with the accusations and he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Then you got the Biden side that's they got Michelle and Barack on their behalf going, you have to vote now. Your life depends on it. Get up out your seat. Get your
Today.
ballot
Get
today.
out the bed.
Get
Get
out
out the
now.
bed right now
Now,
and
get
touch
right
your
now.
vote.
It give me flashbacks of being in school and what's the name of that school that used to come on all the time on TV and tell you get your life together, sign up for college
Oh,
now.
yeah, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. That college.
yeah, yeah. Make you feel like trash, because you didn't finish school. Get
Right.
what you doing with yourself? You sitting on the couch watching TV? Why are you watching me? And so I'm just so sick of these commercials. I'm
I
sick
like
of them
those commercials. I was laughing at those commercials.
because they make you feel like trash. Like, dang, I'm like in the seventh grade. I'm like in the seventh grade. Like, yeah, I ain't do nothing with my life, did I?
Like, am I wasting my life? I should probably go enroll right
let me skip high school and let me go straight to college because I ain't doing nothing right now. Waiting on these cartoons to come back on.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks away, and I do want to be slightly annoying on the internet right now. Just say vote, but I'm taking a different angle. We all know about the presidents, and by this point, I think most people chose whatever side, if they're going to be independent or not. And so I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about our proposals. This is what affects us like immediately. And so I don't know what other state proposals there are, but look at your ballot, whatever state you're in, and make sure you read those proposals, read up on them before you go to the polls or before you um, send in your ballot. Just make sure you read up on them. I know here in Michigan we got 20-1, which is funding our parks and everything, and so getting money for mining and funding our parks and things like that. We got proposal 22, which is a proposal constitutional amendment require search warrants in order to access a person's electronic data. So basically, you the police would need a warrant, to check your phone and to go and get your computer and things like that. So research that. What are your thoughts on that? That affects you now. We always talk about black men and people always being disproportionately pulled over. Well, now there's something here where you would need a warrant to even check a person's phone, what you've been doing, your electronic data. And so, that's should be normally would be a hot button issue if it was like in a general term or during like a middle of the year election, but it's been kind of swallowed up with the general election. Then you have proposal N for the city of Detroit that's specific for the city of Detroit, which would give money for blight removal. 8,000 houses knocked down, and then another 8,000 houses rehab. And so that is kind of a hot topic issue for those of us who work in community. There's some strong opposition to it, primarily the Duggan haters. Our mayor Duggan here in Detroit, he's very polarized, and we have a whole group of people who hate Mayor Duggan for whatever reason. And so look at that, see if that's something you want. Then of course we have our millage here. So if you want to take a look at those educational service millages, but please don't just buy into the hype of Biden, Trump, whoever you're gonna vote for. Please look at these proposals and vote them in. And of course I know a lot of you already got your proposals and your ballots in the mail, and put them in. For those who have not done that yet, get them in there. You want to use the drop boxes. I wouldn't put them in a regular mail right now because there could be delays because so many people are getting their applications back or their ballots back and sending them in. And the postal workers are kind of like overworked. I see so many of them like out at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the evening trying to deliver mail. And so they have specialized drop boxes around your community. Find your drop box, put it directly in that box so it can go there and be counted for that election week. And so, so now I sound kind of like those annoying commercials that I was just talking about, but at least I'm not steering you towards a candidate.
But really, though, if you think about it, you really just shedding light on proposals that got lost because everybody's so concerned about who's going to be president. Yeah. And then they put it like in the back at the bottom.
At the back on the bottom, yeah.
You can skip it, look over it, like, yeah.
Exactly. Oh, and also remember to read your ballot good because you can, you have the option to not vote straight ticket, and so you can split the ticket or you can do mixed ticket. And so that means that you don't have to be straight Democrat. You don't have to be straight Republican. If you one of those people that like really read up on people and you want to pick individuals, you have the option to do that. But make sure you read your ballot instructions where you are. To make sure that that provision is there. I know mine had that on that option on it. So if you like this guy but you don't like this guy on the team, then you kind of mix it up a little bit. So that's about it for me. Pastor Barry said, vote President Trump. Well, vote Pastor Barry said, commented, vote President Trump. Vote for who you want. I mean, I can't tell you. Pastor Barry is going for Trump. So, I mean, all I can say is this. The work that's going on with Israel and the things that's happening there is prophetic, and it's happening. And then he just signed another accord with Israel, I think as of today, I seen in the Wall Street Journal. And so it's interesting if you keep up those sort of things. So be watching. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But Angie?
Okay.
I'm not steering you towards nobody. I'm just saying it's interesting time if you study like prophecy and the things that's going. It's interesting time overall. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with you though. Do the research.
Invest in the stock market. Okay, that's it. I'm done.
Okay, so my topic tonight that God gave me, which is so funny because I was just telling Marcel before we started that he literally just started teaching me and dealing with me with this topic yesterday, and I started like studying it, reading it, and the lesson actually came from Andrew Wommack. I never say his name right. Is that right?
Yeah, Wommack. Yeah.
And it's so funny because it's the answer to a question. I asked him this question like so many years ago, and I've asked it like periodically over time. Because if you're a lot like me, in relationship with God, I always like keep messing up, screwing up. Instead of you just going around the same mulberry tree over and over and over again, it's like, dang, God, I'm so tired of disappointing you. I'm so tired of screwing up, and it'd be like the same thing. Like for me, I get uncomfortable with. Depending on what it is, telling people the truth. I don't like to hurt people's feelings. So in my mind, from back in the day, I always be like, it's a little white lie, just because I want to hurt their feelings, right? And so then, of course, the more I got involved with God, it's like, oh, it's just a lie. It's no little white lies. No, it's okay. It's all wrong. So I'm saying that to say, so my one of my things of sin would be, I'm so, like, if a guy tries to come talk to me, my first thing is, like, I have a boyfriend. I've always have a boyfriend. I'm not available, blah, 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 right? If I'm not interested. And so been dealing with this, it's so hard for me to tell the truth. Because one time, scared they're going to call me out my name. Or, you run into those type of men. So it's like, it's just safe to say, I have a boyfriend. And so God was just dealing with me like, that's all, that's all lying. No matter what the reason behind it, it's a lie. So recently, he was dealing with me with this topic, which is how to prepare your heart, or how to set your heart, purpose your heart towards God. And so I was, one of my questions was like, why do I keep failing? Why do I keep lying? Like, because recently somebody tried to talk to me, and in my mind, I knew to tell the truth, but the lie just rolled off my tongue, right? Mm-hmm. And so he was like, he finally gave me my answer, and the answer was, because in my heart is not set or purposed on him. My heart's not prepared towards him the way I thought it was. So I'm like, hey, I'm spending time with God. I'm reading the Bible, and I do see a difference. You do see a difference in your life, but you can tell if your heart is really set on God when certain situations come up and you stand no matter what. Mm-hmm. And so what he started showing me, he had me read a little bit of about King. Now tell me what this name. Okay, King Rehoboam or Rehoboam. Hoboam.
Now normally it'll roll off my tongue, and now that you got me thinking about it, it's Rehoboam. Yeah, Rehoboam.
Yeah, Rehoboam. Okay. Anyway.
Because now that you got me thinking about it, then it went blank.
So him and David is who he had me looking at, and who Andrew Womack was talking about. So I went and started, putting my own scriptures and looking into it. And he was just saying how when you actually purpose your heart in something, you literally can actually start living a life of free from sin, like really free from sin, really free from doing all the natural things we are inclined to do, because we used to do stuff on our own. And you can tell by how your life is when you can these certain circumstances if your heart is actually set. Like no matter what, God, I don't care what happened, I don't care what I lose, I don't care who stopped liking me, I am going to follow you no matter what. But not just words or in your head. It's like in your literally your heart. And I did not realize that, right? And so I want to read a couple of scriptures here. It's Second Chronicles chapter 12, 13 through 14 about King Rehoboam. Established himself firmly in Jerusalem and continued as king. So basically, he was a king who, in the first beginning of his reign, he had included God in everything he did. His heart was actually set on God, right? The first 3 years. And then a lot of stuff happened and he turned away. So when it gets in verse 14, it says, he did evil, King Rehoboam did evil because he had not set his heart on seeking the Lord. And seeking is another word of saying inquire for, and yearn for it, okay? And so he stopped doing it. He basically was like, I'm done with this. He was listening to everybody else was giving him advice on what to do and how to do it. And so he got totally away from God. And anyway, he got into a whole lot of calamities, okay? And so, and then what really what got me was David. Like, I read First Samuel and Second Samuel about David, like, more than once. And when I went back to read it again, because he had me looking at it from this angle, purpose in your heart, I was saying like, oh wow, there literally is a night and day difference of when your heart is really purposed on God. Because if you go to First Samuel 24, I'm just going to read a couple of scriptures, like not all together. It's not going to be all in one line. So starting from verses 4 to 7. Now, this is David. He was God said he was a man after his own heart. Now I'm realizing that the reason why God said he was a man after his own heart is because his heart was literally focused and set on God, no matter what. He didn't care, like no matter what. So because of that, Saul, I don't know, a lot of people don't know the story. Saul was the king. He was doing a lot of crappy things, wrong things that wasn't of God. And so God decided to set him down from being king, and he chose David to be king. David was really young, but he's like, David's going to be king. So then Saul became basically really jealous of him because people just started praising David because he's like destroyed a lot of armies, he won a lot of wars and beat a lot of men. So he started just basically trying to kill David. Over years, David was in the wilderness. He was had to hide for his life, and Saul was just going after him. And so, in verse 4 to 7, Saul got delivered unto David. He ended up going to this cave to go to sleep, and David and his men were there. And so this is one of his men telling David, like, the men of David said to him, behold, this is the day of which the Lord said to you, behold, I am about to give your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it seems good to you. Then David arose and cut off the edge of Saul's robe secretly. It came about afterward that David's conscience bothered him again because his heart was set on God, because he had cut off the edge of Saul's robe. So he said to his men, far be it from me, because of the Lord, that I should do this thing to my Lord, the Lord's anointed, to stretch out my hand against him, since he is the Lord's anointed. So David basically told his men, like, no, we're not going to touch Saul. So then in verse 9, David said to Saul, they meet up, Saul wakes up and he walks out basically. And David goes up to him and he goes, David said to Saul, why do you listen to the words of men, saying, behold, David seeks to harm you? And then in verse 12, he was like, may the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge me on you, but my hand shall not be against you. Basically, he's just talking to Saul, and he's saying, hey, I could have killed you. You were asleep. I cut like a piece of your robe up. I could have killed you, but I didn't. So I'm going to let God justify me. I'm going to let God avenge me. I'm going to let God choose, like have his way in all of this. I'm not gonna touch you because you're God's anointed. And so then I just want to go down to just certain key points that really just stuck out to me. And then in verse 15, he says again, the Lord therefore be judge and decide between you and me, and may he see and plead my cause and deliver me from your hand. And then in verses 18 and 19, this is Saul talking to David. He's saying, you have declared today that you have done good to me, that the Lord delivered me into your hand, and yet you did not kill me. For if a man finds his enemy, will he let him go away safely? So see, and that's even Saul saying that. I'm like, wow, like you could have killed me. I'm your enemy. How many men find their enemy asleep and you don't take his life when you can? But the only reason why David didn't do it was because his heart was set, purpose in his heart in God. Now, think about this. Somebody hates you, they're trying to kill you. You see this person sleep. If your heart not set on God and you're more in the flesh, your mind is set on God, and you feel like you set on God. But if your heart really not set on God, and you see your enemy who's been trying to kill you for, I don't know, year after year, I don't know how many months, how many years, like running from my life, and I see him sleep, the test is, would I be able to let him live?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Or if somebody come up and did something to my child, and I get the opportunity to seek revenge, would I let him do it? And I had to think about that, because I was like, I don't know. I feel like today, right now, if somebody was to do something really heinous and horrible to somebody that I love, and I have opportunity to get them back some way, somehow, would I not do it? I don't know. So it made me like do a stuff analysis, like, wow, I don't think my heart is really set purpose on God, like no matter what, like no matter what. And so another couple of other ones is just how David dealt with circumstances because his heart was literally set on God. So if you go to 1 Samuel 26, verse 8, I'm not sure how to say this name, Adishai, Abishai.
That sounds about right. We go with it.
Okay.
I don't see it in front of me.
Said to David, today God has delivered your enemy to your hands. Again, Saul is unaware. He was looking for David. He found out where David was. He took all his 3,000 men to go search for David. They set up camp and they go to sleep. So they're all asleep. King Saul, his men. David and his men happen upon them again and again. His man is saying to him, today God has delivered your enemy into your hand. Now let me pin him to the ground with one thrust of my spear. I won't strike him twice. Like I could just kill him with one strike. But David said, don't destroy him. Who can lay a hand on the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? As surely as the Lord lives, he said, the Lord himself will strike him. Either his time will come and he will die, or he will go into battle and perish. But the Lord forbid that I shall lay a hand on the Lord's anointed. Now get the spear and water jug, he's like, now we're just going to go. So again, David let Saul know, like, hey, I could have killed you. But that's not the point. The point I'm saying is that, again, constantly he tempted again in a situation again where he could get his revenge and take back his life, and take control because he was the rightful heir to be king. And while God would not have liked it, the people around him would have been okay with it because he's supposed to have been the next line to be king. That's what people did back in that day. You took over territory, you killed the king, you become the new king. So the people wouldn't have judged him, but he only cared about God. God would have did that. So his heart was, again, he chose, hey, I don't care no matter what. I'm posting on God. And then 2 Samuel, he was verses 13. David said to the young man who brought him. No, that's not the one. Well, we can look at this one because on this one, basically, this guy found Saul after during the war. He was wounded, and Saul was like, "Hey, like take the sword, kill me." The guy did it. So he goes and tells David, like, "Hey, King Saul is dead." So David talked to the young man, like, who brought him the report? Where are you from? He's like, I'm the son of an alien, an Amalekite. Mm-hmm. He answered, David asked him, why were you not afraid to lift your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed? Then David actually had his men strike him down. Now look at this. Saul trying to destroy David, kill him all the time. And then, because somebody else killed Saul, which made him be free, he didn't touch him. He was free. He didn't do anything. But because he touched God's anointed, he avenged Saul, the man who was trying to kill him. Again, it goes back to his heart was fixed on God, to do God's will, to please God, to live God's way, no matter what. No matter what. So this whole time I'm reading this, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that I'm not there. You know, that's what made me realize, like, that's why I keep messing up. That's why I keep letting these little white lies roll off my tongue. Because even if a man would try to come up and approach me, I should be like, you know what? No, I'm not looking for a boyfriend. You know, whatever. But be honest, right?
Right.
And so then you go to Second Samuel, chapter 6, verse 16, and now this is really got me because what happened. This is about when they got back the Ark of the Lord. They got back the Ark. It was stolen. That's another. You know, you just got to read the story. But basically, the Ark was stolen. They got it back. David was very happy, so he decided he was going to praise and worship God, where he danced out of his clothes. His wife criticized him for it, but he was like, "I don't care." He's like, "I'm going to worship my God." He's like, "It may be embarrassing to you, and I may be embarrassed to myself, but you know, it's about God for me." So he didn't care about what people thought. He didn't care about his own wife thought about him. His heart was purpose to serve God no matter what. Even if he lost his wife, even if she laughed at him, even if people laughed at him, his heart was set to do the will of God. Period. No matter what. And so he was just like, I don't care. But here's the kicker. And this is why I said God just finally gave me my answer after years and years of acting. I'm like, why do I keep screwing up? Why? If you go to 2 Samuel chapter 11, this is what happens when we take our eyes off God, when our heart is not really stop being purpose. And what I mean by that is that when I say set your heart on God, it's even though I'm already spending time with God and I'm reading Him, it's like, am I letting Him like really change my heart and like in the heart be fixed on Him? So David in his heart, that's why God said David was a man after his own heart, because his heart was purely really set on Him. So even though he's about to make this mistake, he was able to repent. He humbled himself and repent. He was like, you know, God, you know, like, yeah, I did this. I did. He didn't try to hide it. He didn't try to feel like it didn't happen and still like, well, I don't care. Try to justify it and still do what he wanted to do. No. He repented after he did this horrible thing he did, which was what he did was he saw this woman on her balcony. I'll read it. One evening, David arose from his couch, and he was walking on he was on the roof of the king's house. When from there he saw a woman bathing, and she was very lovely to behold. Her name was Bathsheba. He wanted her, so he said to people like, "Hey, send this magic, bring her to me." They did the and she got knocked up, and so he was like, "Whoa, wow, she got knocked up. We got to get her husband, call him in from war." Get him to lie. He was trying to get the husband to have sex with his wife so that the baby was his and nobody would ever know about his secret. But God knew about the secret, right? So, and then he made things worse because the husband did finally come back, he never went to sleep with his wife. He stayed, you know, in front of the castle, you know, with the other soldiers and everything. And David tried to get him to go back to see his wife. He gave him dinner, you know, everything. And he just wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. He was a soldier first, and his men was out there at war. He just didn't want to do it. So David sent him back out, but then he sent a letter telling one of his head guards, like, hey, you know what, put him at the front, get him killed. So he got him killed. Then he married Bathsheba, and then God dealt with him. And so when God dealt with him about that, he had to repent. But why did that happen when you have a man who wouldn't kill Saul, who was literally after him, who in the world would have been okay? He would have just been the king. But in the eyes of God, it wouldn't have been okay. So he didn't do it. So he went through all of this, saw a woman, which this was his weak temptation. That means he had to, like, at some point, like, make it our today life. We just went ahead and we stopped spending time with God for maybe like a couple of months. Got enough far where your heart was turned enough. Got a little cold enough to just do something you normally wouldn't have done if you stayed fixed on God. So that's basically like somebody do something to you, you turn the other cheek. So I used to wonder when I read this. Every time I read this, even recently I read this, I'd be like, man, why we gotta turn the other cheek? I mean, if somebody do something, why can't you just hit them back? Like that really really puzzled me, because I was just like how do you not want to get them back? Like, and then my answer, my heart set on God. That's the thing. So when you see people who is able to you, what you rethink, like, man, they really got it together spiritually. They out there, they're basically looking good. Like, you don't see them screwing up a lot. Rarely at all. And then you wonder about, you get the pastors who was into God, doing miracle signs and wonders, and then he fall off, maybe he have an affair, he do something. You look like, wait, what happened? Is that at any time we stop setting our heart on God and purpose our heart on God, we can fall. We can screw up. We can, like, it's really about the heart. So I'm learning this as I'm telling you this. God's dealing with me with this right now. I'm learning it, and He also was teaching me that you can, through Andrew Womack, one thing he said that really struck a chord with me, and it was just that you can literally wake up in the morning and say, I am not going to lie today, or I am not going to steal today, or I am not going to, whatever it may be. Like, wake up and say, I'm going to forgive every single person that does anything to me today. I'm going to stay in love today. When we wake up with that purpose, a plan, saying, I'm not going to do this today, and we live on purpose and conscious, and literally be aware of God in our heart, not just in our mind, but in our heart, and we purposely lead out to go that day to not do it. And so funny, so this morning I woke up like, okay, today I'm not going to lie about anything, no matter what. So I was talking to my neighbor across the street, and we were talking about cars, and I don't even know how we got on something about cars, but anyway, and we were talking about how we had to give up our car, and she was talking about she's getting her car fixed. I was like, oh yeah, I said, yeah, I had to sell my Trailblazer to my brother-in-law when, God had me quit my job. But what I told her was, I was like, when I lost my job,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm gonna tell you why. And then right after I let the words come out of my mouth, everything God was doing me, I was like, God. And I knew why I said it like that, because I'm like, she may not understand. If I say God didn't quit my job, because I always used to get these weird looks, So I stopped telling people, So I was like, oh, I mean, God, I used to like dodge the question or whatever. And so then I was like, I said, well, actually, well, really, God told me to quit my job. I had to correct it in that moment, And so again, it just shows me in that moment, if my heart was really set on God, I would have just came right out and said, well, God had me quit my job. And so when that happened, I ended up selling my car to my brother-in-law, because, I couldn't get it fixed, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying this I'm really talking to everybody, but this is mainly for, I feel like, an assignment, maybe we can, for everybody, but to me, God's put in my heart, specifically talk to like the Christian singles, because I feel like this is another opportunity to where we can try this, because I feel like we have it easier, well, maybe not easier. I just feel like we take advantage of our singleness, where this is something we can practice right now. We don't have a lot of distractions. We don't have a lot of distractions, so we can like wake up in the morning and really practice and focus in on our hearts and see where it really is all day. Like all day, checking with the heart and say, and I feel like we should do this, and like maybe for to our next showing, and then we can talk about it and see, what the difference was in our lives from today to we have the show again. Like, okay. I feel like this is something we can practice together.
Okay.
And maybe everybody practice together, and then we can like sharing it, like, hey, I tried that. I every day get up and say what I'm not gonna do today. I'm gonna please God all that day in this area. Focus on a certain area, and then just see from that area, from the day we start today or tomorrow to when we come up again, and we can see what they're different.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, kind of like I think there's more assignment for me, really, to do this, but I'm inviting you to do it with me.
Okay, I'll do it with you, and we invite everyone to join in the self-improvement challenge, or where we're gonna call it, right? Where from this moment forward, we say, I'm gonna work on myself in this area, and we come back, we'll see, how we did, evaluate ourselves, and just report out how God used us, right? Because I think that's important for us to work on those small things that can become big things. You mentioned, just feeling that, it's that little white lie, if they say, it's just a small lie, but, those habits form, and then you could turn into lies and not even know it. Lie, not even know it, and use it in your relationships every day. You could start exaggerating, embellishing, and then
Mhm.
you get into a relationship with somebody. Well, oh well, I just talk to the person. Maybe you kiss the person. I don't know. You know what I mean? But you can like embellish. Oh well, I walked down the street and I found $500. Well, you might have found only like $5, but you made it bigger than what it was. And those things that we sometimes do in our lives that become habit, and we say it's not harmful. Well, lying is a sin, right?
Yep.
And so you saying there's no such thing as big sin and little sin. And
Right.
so
All things.
it's all the same. It's all weighed the same,
Mhm.
right? And so, yeah, I'll be interested in doing that. So we can find something that we could work on and we can report out and just see, how did we change? Because it's important that we have that heart of God, right? And
Yeah.
that we have His heart, that we replace our ways with His ways. And so, in our reason and our understanding, we can reason our way into sin. Oh, well, it was just this. God, doesn't care about that. Well, He cares about all of it because He paid the price for it. So, He paid for it. And so, having that heart transplant, having our minds to be His mind, having our thoughts to be His thoughts, having our words to be His word. And so, I could totally empathize with that because a lot of times, as a guy, I go to the gas station, people approach me and things like that for money and stuff like that. Hey, you got a quarter, you got a dollar. I can have a pocket full of money, and I'll be like, no, I ain't got it, and keep going. And it's like habit, right? And like,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
you can spare a dime instead of me saying I have it, but not for you, or something. Find a nice way to say it. You know,
Yeah.
I just be like, nah, bro, I don't got it. I don't got it, bro. But and I be having it because obviously I'm going inside the store. but yeah, so we could work on those things and just saying, you know what, I'm standing against lies. I'm not gonna allow the devil to have any place in my life. And so when
Yeah.
the Bible talk about not allowing the devil to have a place in your life, he's talking about him stepping his foot in the door right as you're trying to close it right and leaving that crack open to come in. So maybe the lion spirit leads into that small crack that leads maybe into a gossip spirit that maybe leads into a judgment spirit or does something that will, get you off in your walk with Christ. And so maybe you might not be a huge liar, but maybe you can become one because of it. And so, yeah, that's a very interesting point. And definitely, I think we could work on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's all like being formed in this image. You talk about just little white lies and things like that. I'm thinking about, this culture that we have now, especially in single culture, where we had this whole thing where it's like it's a joke on social media. My wife or my girlfriend tried to look through my phone. I had to jump through the window and stuff like that, or she gonna get her feelings hurt. She see look through my contacts, and it's like, well, what's inside your contacts that's gonna make her mad? You in a relationship. First of all, you ain't supposed to be shacking up and having sex anyway outside of marriage. I'll say that again because I know that people turn up and say, "Oh, y'all just religious church folk," but you're not supposed to be doing it. Saying you ain't supposed to be doing it. But anyway, you shouldn't be having anything in your phone list, that would make your relationship end. You know what I mean? And so I
Yeah.
hear I hear the other end of the spectrum. Will single people do single stuff? No. What is single stuff? And
Yeah.
so those are the little lies we tell ourselves, right?
Yep.
Make
Yep.
ourselves feel good, and it gets us into all kinds of
Trouble.
trouble. Yeah, so absolutely, I agree with that. I want to say hello to Pastor Barry. We still got Pastor Barry, Mark, and Patricia that's watching,
Hello.
and
Hello.
we say hello to Bishop. He's on YouTube. He
Hey,
said
Bishop.
he said Andrew Womack voted for Trump. So there you go. That's for you, Angie. So I mean,
Thank you for
you
that, Bishop. Thank you.
so he might have won you over. So we'll see. But yeah, but just having that heart towards God, and I think we're not always cognizant of what we do sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many times do we like talk about someone and we just, it's like we having a conversation, but we talking about them. Or sometimes you hear someone pray, and I'm not in our church, but I mean you hear people pray. You've heard people pray before,
Yeah.
and you be like, are they throwing shade at somebody? Because I always ask that. I actually asked God about that. Can you go to hell for throwing shade in prayer? Like, can you do that? Is that blasphemy? Like, cause I really want to know. Like, can you do that? That's a question for Facebook and YouTube. Can you throw shade in prayer? Can you go to hell for that? Is that wrong? Because I think, you know what I mean. But anyway, I like little things like that. We have to check our heart and guard our hearts. The word says. You know what I
We
mean.
can't live carelessly no more. We gotta like be on purpose. Be in
Be
the
in,
moment.
be in
Every
the moment.
moment.
Be in the moment. Be intentional. You know. Hello to Shirley Thomas that's joining in. Look like we got Pastor Ruben joining in. You might want to join in and say a few words. How you doing, Pastor Ruben? He might be on mute. Sometimes he just joins in and listen in, which is fine. And so, yeah. And so is that the thing you're going to work on for the next week?
Yeah, just cause I don't know why I have a thing like I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings, I don't want to reject anybody. So yeah, I'm gonna work on that because my go-to is always to say, cause I don't know why I feel better. So yeah, I think I'm gonna focus on telling the truth all day, every day, in love, no matter what.
In love, okay. Even when you feel like you got to sugarcoat it, right?
Even when I feel like I got sugarcoated, I'm just gonna be like, I love you, honest, and just
speak the truth in love.
It's gonna be so hard. Already I'm like inside like, ugh, you know.
Or you can just let Sadie say it for you. I'm sure she'll find a way, to get it across.
Yeah. If only. If only. So yeah, this is gonna be. I already know this is gonna be like a little bit of a challenge for me. Like I said, I don't lie like in life, but little things I think if I'm spiritual by feeling, it just automatically it just comes out. Again,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really living on purpose or intentionally. I'm not like, where's my heart at in this moment? Wait, pause, think about it. No. So this will be interesting. So yeah.
It'll be interesting. I'm trying to think. So when I come back next time, what I'm gonna report out on, I think, and I'm really gonna, this is one of those things I want to address it, but I don't want to address it because I'm kind of scared. So, well, not scared. I'm not. I'll just use that word. I'm not scared. God, I'm not giving the spirit of fear, but it's like I should work on being patient with people.
Ooh.
Because that's one thing that lately, that's been an area I haven't been really patient with people, especially when I know internally that different people are different levels of their faith walk, and a few people I work with and work around, they don't really have a level of faith just yet. You know what I mean? Like they're not saved just yet, or they're not really made that connection to come all the way into Christ. And so some things and situations I'm like, okay, God, I just need to be patient. Like, why is this person doing this? Why is this person just, and I just need to be patient with them. I don't be mad at them or even like, wanting to get revenge or because they don't do anything to the extent where I would want to do something like that. But it's just like some stuff you're just like, I'm just gonna be patient and walk this thing out with love. And so I've been I've been thinking about that. So I think I'm gonna work on that. I want to see about being patient with certain situations and individuals that I've been like, God, I'm just gonna keep quiet, but this is really eating at me, you know what I mean? And see where we come back from a week from now or 2 weeks from now. And you know what? I think let me take a look at the calendar because I think do we come back after the election? That's gonna be a hot show. The 6th. We come back the 6th. So that'll be just as they theoretically be finishing counting the ballots because they're anticipating like that whole week them counting. So that's gonna be interesting. So November the 6th.
Right now, we sit at the table, they count, they get the final number, they're like, that can't be right. if it's not who they want and they recount again.
That's I have all these scenarios in my mind. Like of people like, oh, they voted for this candidate. Let me just toss this over here. I'm sure they probably have like some sort of checks and balances over that. But that's what goes through my mind when they first started pushing this voter thing. Like, oh, what zip code is this? We gonna leave this on the mail truck. They're gonna find this over on Shane and Mac somewhere. 2 months from now. Just a basket of envelopes. But I pray to God nothing like that happens. So that's gonna be a hot show. A great show. So I'm thinking I'm gonna work on that for next week. And yeah, that's about it. Did you have anything else about your encounter? So me, I've been really thinking about the whole thing of communication, and I think that's what's really gonna help with people being patient with one another, kind with one another. I think we are not always effective in communicating with each other as we think we are, and so this carries over no matter where you are in life, whether you're married, single, whatever, work relationships, family relationships. If you're not communicating effectively, things fall apart. And when I really start to think about why people fall out, why people get church hurt or burnt out and stuff like that, a lot of it I start to realize was just that things were not maybe communicated by one party or both parties effectively. And so, because of that, it's added a strain that didn't need to be there in the relationship. And so the scriptures actually have a whole bunch of things that it says um, about communicating. It says James 1:19 tells us that, so then, my brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Now, it depends. Now, for me, that scripture, I would like to say I have all three, but it really depends on the person that I'm dealing with. 90%, 99% of people, I could probably say I have all three. There's some where I could be, I always quick to, everybody know that I don't talk much outside of being on camera. So I listen a lot, and I am have to slow to speak unless I'm dealing with someone that's like, oh wait a minute, what you say? And that slow to wrath. There's been a few times where I've been like, I could say wrath, but I've been irritated. Have you ever been like irritated with someone? Yeah. But a lot of that, it's because of poor communication on both sides, and even I'm guilty of it. And so one of the things that I liked about doing like restorative practices, that whole thing about mediation is learning about saying, how do I feel and how was I affected, instead of pointing a finger at the other person, and then really looking at what the person is saying, listening. And that's the biggest problem that we have. We don't always listen as human beings. It don't matter what your religion is, what your faith is. We don't always listen to each other. And a lot of times when we're talking, people are already forming ideas, what they're going to say. And so it blocks out everything. And so, we have to be quick to hear, what is this person saying to me? If they're my significant other, obviously, I think they love me. I would think if we were in a relationship, if they're my mother, my father, if they're my cousin, my aunt, I think these people have a love relationship with me. And so what is they trying to say to me? And am I hearing it correctly? So before I talk, let me be slow to speak. Let me evaluate what I'm going to say. Angie, sometimes I think I throw people off because I pause for a while before I say something. But I do that intentionally because a lot of times I'm crafting my words, what I'm going to say. Because I've learned that the intonation of your voice and the way that you say things could sometimes affect the way someone receives it, right? And so I could say literally, Angie, that's a nice shirt. And you could take that as, oh, thank you, I have a nice shirt. Or I could say, Angie, that's a nice shirt. And you be like, oh, well, he said that kind of like, some sort of way. What he trying to say? I know this is a nice shirt. I know I look great with my shirt on, and so, things could kind of happen like that, right? And now that we live in this society where we're in a communication society, but nobody communicates, right? We got Twitter, we got, You know, we got our cell phones, we got text messages, we got Twitter and all Snapchat, all the stuff that's going off now. But we misunderstand each other a lot of times because we misread words. We don't know the emotion behind it, and so we our communication is all jacked up, right? And so God gives us that wisdom there, and so we should be very frank when it comes to, or very intentional when it comes to hearing. Proverbs 18 and 13, excuse me, says that he who answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame to him. I can hear Apostle Ben's voice saying foolishness. He who answers a matter before he hears it is folly to them. You ever dealt with an individual who, and maybe even yourself, who were like, you didn't hear everything all the way, and so you just dealt with it and said, I'm gonna, how dare you attack me? How dare you say this? I ain't what you said. And the person has to come back and say, that ain't what I said. What I said was this. And then you're like, oh, I'm embarrassed now. I shouldn't have, snapped off in that moment. Right. And so we have to be very intentional in our hearing. And so we need to work to really understand one another. And I think that's one thing that's missing in society. We don't work to understand one another. We work to get our point across, but not to understand one another. And so Proverbs 18 and 2 says that a fool has no delight in understanding, but in expressing his own heart. I don't think I ever ran across this scripture. I know I read Proverbs before, but it stuck out to me. A fool has no delight in understanding, but in expressing his own heart. So a foolish person, all they want to do is just talk about what they want to talk about, say what they want to say. It kind of reminds me of those men that you was referencing earlier. They talk to the women, and the women obviously not into them. And sadly, I know some women who they wear wedding rings. They nowhere near married, but they do it thinking that it'll repel these fools, and I'll call them fools, who keep coming after them, right? But they're not trying to understand when a lady says, I'm not interested, or thank you for the compliment, but I'm with someone, or maybe I just want to be single. They're like, oh no, baby, but you see, you need to come out here with me, what I'm saying, girl, and I'm the best man you ever had, you like an angel fell from the sky, what I'm saying, pretty girl, you must be an angel because you just fell, you got angel in your wings, it's all this stuff, and you're like, just go away already. But it's foolishness because they just want to, force you, and they're not understanding exactly what you're trying to say. And so, we have to look for a common ground in our communication. When I feel something being heated in a discussion, I look for common ground. That's one tip that the professionals tell you. What do you say by common ground? Well, find a way to circle the conversation back in such a way that grabs the other person's attention. If the person is talking about, blue people is coming from the planet Pluto and they coming to take over the Earth, and it's all a part of a grand scheme from the government. Well, I might not understand that, and I might not agree with that. But if they're getting angry at me because of it, well, I'm gonna say, well, I can't understand. I can't say one thing. I don't understand everything on this earth, and there certainly is some weird stuff going on. And you have a lot of knowledge in this area. Would you mind educating me on some of these things, because I really don't follow that? Or if Angie was to say, you know what? How come don't you know about the royal family, this and that, and the other thing? And I'm like, well, I don't know about it. And she's like, well, what do you mean you don't know about? How come you don't know that they just had this big thing happen? And I'm not going to get angry at her. I'll say, you know what, you was right. Meghan Markle, I heard about recently that maybe they not so connected to the royal family, but I haven't kept up with the latest news of it. I haven't heard what's happening now, and I'll find that common ground and circle the conversation back so that the person would feel valued and that we can have an open dialogue and discussion. And so that's one thing that I've learned to do. And then try to block out the distractions, not thinking about how I'm going to retaliate, what I'm going to say, how I'm going to prove how I'm intellectually superior or how the person is wrong. I'm not going to do any of those things. And then if a person has really strong feelings, acknowledge them without becoming offended or angry. And that goes back to what I said. That point actually goes to what I said earlier. acknowledge them. You're kind of right. Um, you don't like this candidate. It was they did do some shady stuff in the past. You know what I mean? I think they both sides kind of do some shady stuff. And acknowledge them so that they don't feel like you're throwing darts at them. You know what I mean? And so bring it back.
What if scenario? What if they actually are wrong though? Right? They getting all irritated and upset with you, but they're actually wrong. What do you do then?
If you have the facts, or if you have the knowledge to challenge them on them, you can say, "Well, I understand your position, but uh, these are the facts, and this is how it really happened." And you just lay it out to them, and then you can, depending on who the relationship is, you can say, you my bro, you my sis, but this how it is, and no disrespect, anything like that. I know on the street, they if someone bumps into you, like, oh man, I respect you. There's no disrespect. Guys say that to each other just to know that we not about to start a fight. I had that to happen to me like a couple of months ago, at the gas station. A guy came in. He was drunk. He bumped into me, and then he goes, hey man, it's all love, bro. It's all respect, bro. It's all love. And I said, okay, that's how we talk to each other. So you can do something like that, hypothetically, and just acknowledge them and say, I see where you're coming from, but this is how it actually lands. You're a little bit wrong, So you say, you ain't supposed to have money because it's money is evil. Well, the Bible said the love of money is the root of all evil. You're a little bit wrong on that, so you have to, gently correct them. So, and God, David had this problem, and the New Living Translation of Psalm 141:3 says, "Take control of what I say, O Lord, and keep my lips sealed." David asked that, and he even went on to say, Psalm 19:14, "May the words of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer." And so even us as believers, we should always have that posture that we watch what we say. And that kind of ties into what you were saying earlier, strangely enough. I wasn't expecting that. So, but we should be mindful and acknowledging God, how we control situations, how we speak to one another, how we deal with one another. And again, also, one of my biggest things that's not in my notes, don't make assumptions. I always say that a lot. Sometimes I put that on my Facebook, and it's not directed towards anybody, but I just say, don't make assumptions. And it's something a hard lesson that I learned earlier in my life. Not to assume stuff. I used to always just assume stuff. And it would get me in trouble because what I thought wasn't always reality, and sometimes that was happening. Reverend Henry McClendon says that the greatest movie theater that was ever created is between our ears. So we had the ability to project things, right? And so what we hear is not always what was said. What we see and then we imagine is not always what happened. And so we got to always have that posture in us that say, what, God, take control of my mind, my thoughts, and can take control of my lips, because that'll govern how I'll, deal with other people, so that I'm not assuming and making assumptions, so I'm not, snapping off on people. But also, on the opposite aspect of it, if you're looking for someone to do something, you have an expectation that someone is going to do something or say something or perform or act or anything like that, it's better to go to that one person and say, well, maybe I wasn't clear, but this is what I was expecting. And 99% of the time, I think a person would respond better to that than you. Like, I ain't going to talk to them no more. I'm going to cut them off. Because they didn't do what they said they was going to do. And it might not have been that. Oh, they looking at me dirty and they talking about me. And maybe they did look at you dirty, but they wasn't having attention towards you. Yesterday I was in the office at work, and my coworkers, she had this like angry look on her face, but she said immediately after she looked at me, she said, "This way, I'm not mad at you. This is my thinking face." And so I acknowledge that sometimes I look angry when I'm thinking. She said that immediately, and so, but she must have acknowledged that sometimes she could look mad. You know, because she did look at me like, I was like, oh, did I do something? And so, but she said, no, I'm just thinking, and this is what I'm doing. She explained it, and so you know, sometimes we just have to be very intentional in the way we deal with each other and how we talk to each other. And oh, it's 9:01, so I mean, we
Yeah.
technically don't have a time limit, but we want to be respectful. It is Friday evening, but yeah, that's really consider a way that we communicate with one another. Doesn't matter what level you're at, what your title are, who you are. You know, communication goes a long way in every aspect of your life, and a lot of that strife and stuff that goes on the street in our families and our marriages and our relationship, it all ties into communication. And so that's really what I had. And I didn't know it was going to tie into what you said.
You
So,
know, it's so funny though. You was talking to me there because I am so quick to be like, depending on how passionate I am
mm,
and what it's about, like, you know. And my friend told me, Angie, calm down. We just saying blah 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 blah. So yeah, but you're right. Communication is definitely key because they get avoid a whole lot of stuff. I've been
no,
ones
lot of
that
stuff.
made assumptions. Yeah, and in the middle, if I'm like debating with somebody, the one thing I have never done is acknowledge however they feel because I know I'm right. You said what you said. My first thing to say is agree, disagree. I don't mean it, but I say it just to shut it off so we won't get it. But it's hard for me to stop talking and to let it go and stop prove my point.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so those are two things we could work on. Work on you know, you found identify something that you was gonna work on for the next week, right? And when
Yep.
we come back, report out on it. So those of you watching, we're gonna find one thing. I want you to consider one thing that you want to improve in your life. One thing
Yep.
that you need to work on, the issue that you have that you want to work on personally, and you don't have to share it out publicly if you don't want to. But I encourage you for this next week, work on that one issue. If you have anger issue, if it's you know, issue with lying, issue with gossiping, or whatever the issue is, you say, I want to change this part of me. We're gonna actively work on changing it, and we're gonna report out when we come back November the 6th. And we're gonna have some election results, probably, hopefully, no recounts, and then we're gonna talk about that and see how our lives have changed and what our experiences have been. And I encourage everyone who's watching it join the journey with us. And
Yeah.
if you feel comfortable to report out as well in the comment section, you know what you worked on for the week. It might just encourage another saint and believer. And so yeah, that's awesome.
Just to add a little bit, if you are somebody who like, okay, I'm going to work on a certain thing, and you're not sure how to do it, you can find like one scripture or two to
Mm.
back up whatever you're dealing with, and meditate on that scripture like this whole week, like all day, all night, just whatever chance you get, meditate on that, whatever related to whatever you're trying to work on this week. Yeah.
Amen. So yeah, so we're gonna do that. And Andy, did you have anything else before we
Nope,
close?
I'm clear. I'm
Well,
just excited about this week, though. I'm excited about this little journey we're about to do.
all right, yeah, it is pretty exciting. So, again, you know, our ultimate goal is to be like Jesus. You say, well, nobody's perfect. Well, we working on perfecting ourselves as much as we can. We're working on walking in perfection and having dominion and having all those things that the covenant that we enter into with Jesus Christ has given us. And so, but to do that, you have to have that relationship with Him. You can't be a spectator. You know, you can't. You have to get off the bench. You have to get in the game. In order to win the championship, you have to play on the court. Well, I know some of our sports people be like, well, you know, so and so, but they were still on the team. They wasn't just sitting there. They was on the team. They was in the workout. They was in the practices. So don't play with me like that. So, but you have to be a part of the team. You have to be a part of the experience. And so, in order to do that, you have to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And it's not a hard thing. It's a very easy thing to do, and you have to just acknowledge that you need Him in your life. And so I'm going to lead you to a quick prayer if that's you. Just say, Father,
Father,
I acknowledge that I'm a sinner
I acknowledge that I'm a sinner
in need of a Savior.
in need of a Savior.
Come into my life
Into my life.
and make me new
Make me new
from the inside out.
from the inside out.
And I'll serve you
I will now serve you
for all the rest of my days.
All the rest of my days.
Amen. And that's it. That's all it needs. And if you're watching, you're tuning in, you say, I just prayed that prayer and I don't know where to go from here. We want to send you some resources to help you on your journey. We're not just a ministry that puts videos out. We're very active in your life, and we want to walk with you in your walk with Christ. We're not going to abandon you out in the wilderness to wander. And so we have resources for you to help you in your walk. If you have questions, feel free to inbox us and comment. You could inbox us directly on our Facebook page. If you're watching us on Facebook, you can leave a comment on our YouTube. We will pick it up and or you can also find us online and come and visit us if you like. We are open. We're going to be socially distant. I have my mask here. The building is empty, so I'm not wearing it, but I got my mask, and so you come with your mask and join us. If you're not in the Detroit or greater Detroit area, you can let us know where you are. We'll find you a good Bible believing church, no matter what city you're in, no matter what state you're in, no matter what country you're in. And yes, we do have it like that. so we got to send you to ICA in Japan or Tokyo Urban Church, and we got to send you to Bishop Adieko over there in Africa. We'll send you somewhere. Just tell us where you are. We'll find you a place to go. I guarantee you. All right. And so, so thank you for joining us, Angie. Fantastic topic, as always.
Yours too. Enjoyed it.
All right. So we'll see everyone. Thank you, Pastor Ruben, joining us. And did you want to say anything? Did you want to say anything, Pastor Ruben, before we sign off? I think he's on mute. Probably on mute. Well, we thank you again for joining us. And so remember that the devil is defeated, God is exalted,
and Jesus is Lord.
Peace, everyone. Have a great night.